Hello, I am comedian impressionist Marcus, and welcome back to First Impressions, where each time I'm going to quickly break down a different impression and teach you how to try doing voices for yourself. And in this episode, we're going to break down the voice of a guy who started off as just a buff rapper who was nothing more than the little brother of one of the new kids on the block, and then he went on to become one of the biggest movie stars in the world. Yeah. Can you feel it, baby? You better call me Marky Marcus because it's time to take on Mark Wahlberg.
What? No.
Now, again, this voice isn't a stock impression. And while there are some pretty amazing Wahlberg impressions out there, feel free to Google them, the most popular and well-known is probably Andy Samberg's over-the-top SNL characterization that was going more for parody than perfection.
And now Mark Wahlberg talks to animals.
Hey, I'm Mark Wahlberg. You guys know me. Hey, dog, how's it going? I like your fur. That looks really great. Well, it was great to meet you. Say hi to your mother for me, okay?
So most people who do Mark Wahlberg tend to latch on to three main characteristics, right? He's always confused, he's always kind of intense and out of breath, and he's from Boston, right? So when you kind of combine those things, without even trying, you just get Mark Wahlberg. First of all, you put on the voice, right? You just put on a little bit of that Boston accent. It's not quite New York, but it's there. Then you make it a little more intense and out of breath. What? What are we doing? And then you make it confused. Huh? No. What? That's what I'm talking about. And essentially, that's a Mark Wahlberg impression, right? Just a confused, intense Bostonian. That's the extent of Wahlberg. Just do that, and most people will know who you're doing. What? No way. Are you talking to me? Am I talking to you? Is that guy talking to me? Who's that guy over there? I don't even know who I am in this movie. What's my name? What's your name? Right? Everything sounds like that. So that's kind of the parody Wahlberg impression. But you know that on this channel, we don't try to always go for parody. We try to get as close as we can. Now, I wasn't joking earlier about Mark Wahlberg being one of the biggest movie stars in the world because he legit is. And I know it sounds like a joke to say that Marky Mark,
You feel it, baby? I do too.
became one of the biggest movie stars ever, but he did, and it's not even fair to even call him that. Yes, he had a couple hit songs back in the early 90s, right? But in the mid-90s, he started his acting career with amazing roles in memorable movies like The Basketball Diaries and Fear, one of my wife's favorite movies, and then quickly gaining leading man status and starring in amazing dramas like Boogie Nights and Rockstar and The Departed, and then comedies like Daddy's Home and the Ted movies, and then finally headlining huge action movies like the Transformers franchise.
I think we just found a transformer.
Now, when it comes to Mark Wahlberg, again, he's been in 1,000 good things, right? He has so many movies to choose from, and there's so many moments within those movies of perfect Wahlbergness. But I wanted to kind of go with things that, to me, were when he was being the most Wahlbergy that he can. None of these are words. I'm inventing them all. They can invent Wahlburgers. I can invent words in this, okay? Don't come at me in the comments. My favorite, I think, and one of the most parodied moments in Mark Wahlberg's career was when he probably made the poor decision to star in, at the time, I probably sounded like a good idea. Hey, you want to be in a movie by the guy who did The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable? Do you want to do that? Sure, he said. What a fantastic thing this probably will become. And they went on to make a movie called The Happening, which is one of the worst and silliest movies ever made. And I don't know what the direction was in this movie, but it feels like M. Night Shyamalan was just like, hey, Mark Wahlberg, turn it up to 50 and just do that the whole movie. Because the whole movie, Mark Wahlberg's up here. It doesn't even matter. He starts here and he goes from here. It's crazy. Oh my gosh, what? So most of the over-the-top, crazy Mark Wahlberg mannerisms that you get come from his performance in The Happening. So let's take a look at a couple little moments from The Happening and see if we can figure out What's happening?
Look, I don't know if you guys have heard about this article in the New York Times about honeybees vanishing. Well, apparently, honeybees are disappearing all over the country. Tens of millions of them just disappearing. There's no bodies, no sign of them. They're just mysteriously gone. It's scary, huh?
I hear you whispering. Planning on stealing something?
No, ma'am, we're not.
Plan on murdering me in my sleep?
What? No.
It's so stupid. Like, that was something that he did think about this, that he did. And M. Night Shyamalan was like, that's great. Moving on. We got it. No, we don't need another one. Great job, Wahlberg. Like, well, by the way, that's a dead-on M. Night Shyamalan, so you're learning that one for free. But to me, that is insane that they were just like, yeah, this is the tone we're going for. Because in that, despite the fact that he's playing a teacher that teaches children about science, because who better do you want your kids to learn science from than Mark Wahlberg, right? Hey kids, have you heard this story about the honeybees disappearing? They're disappearing all over, right? If you notice, he's doing this weird kind of up at the end, like he's saying a question when he's not, right? The honeybees are all disappearing. They haven't found bodies. They don't know what's going on, right? Those aren't questions. He's making statements, but he's going up like it's a question. So I think that's, again, he's basically parroting himself in this, right? That's not really what Mark Wahlberg sounds like. That's Mark Wahlberg doing a Mark Wahlberg impression of Mark Wahlberg. And it's so silly and over the top that it's a really great place to kind of take that spoof parody impression that everybody does and really get a good sense of it coming from, I guess, the horse's mouth, right? Because it's just crazy. What? No, we would never do that. Oh my God, what? That's crazy, right? It's silly, it's over the top, and that's a good place to do it. Because if you can get to that crazy over the top place, you can bring it down just a little bit and have a more serious Mark Wahlberg. So Mark Wahlberg has been in a lot of big action movies, but none bigger or more transformative for his career than when he took over the Transformers franchise. Now, some might say that these aren't very good movies, and those people would be right because they watched them and they were honest. But they're fun and they're silly and they're, I don't know, they're this.
Okay, sir, you better have insurance.
Insurance? It's a freaking spaceship. You go get insurance on a freaking spaceship. Good luck with that, buddy. It's your car? Huh? Sweetie, hand me my alien gun.
Okay. That is 30 seconds of a 2.5 hour plus movie that is all that ridiculous. But I don't think there's a more ridiculous moment than I don't, if you haven't seen this movie, we didn't add in the glory shot of the burning Bud Lights on the ground. That's in the movie. That's a real thing that they did. And this is literally just a commercial. If you watch this scene in the movie, it's so funny. They like crash through like a Victoria's Secret billboard and there's Bud Lights on the ground. There's a Goodyear truck in the background. There's like a Capitol. There's so many things in this to try to sell you a product. It's insane. And then he picks up the beer and he smashes it down. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. But this is another great scene now. And you can hear in the happening, Mark Wahlberg was all up here. It's very breathy. It's all kind of this questioning thing. It's where he kind of lives in his head. But the thing is that Mark Wahlberg also has a little bit of, deeper tones that can come into that. So when you have that breath, you can add in just a little bit of this. What? You want me to get some insurance on a freaking spaceship? That's a freaking spaceship. Hand me my alien gun. Right? Now you're bringing in, it's not so breathy. It's not all the way up here every time. Now you can add in just a little bit of that voice too. And then you go up with the other thing. And just like with Christopher Walken, where you had the lower tones and then you can go up. Here, it's the same type of thing where you're down here doing the thing, you're doing the Mark Wahlberg, and then you can go up if you need to. Right? You can go all the way up and get really confused. But you want to make sure that you use both of those tones. So again, it's another great example of Mark Wahlberg being Mark Wahlberg and giving you just a slightly different version of his voice. Now, like we talked about earlier, probably the most famous Mark Wahlberg impression is the Andy Samberg, Mark Wahlberg Talks to Animals from Saturday Night Live. Now, this was so big. It was back when, like SNL was doing these clips that would like take over the internet. They're viral clips, right? And Andy Samberg was involved in most of them. He was amazing at that, right? We talked about the clip that he did for Pirates of the Caribbean with Michael Bolton back when we did our Jack Sparrow episode. And in this one, we showed you just a few minutes ago, the Mark Wahlberg Talks to Animals. Now, what a lot of people may not have known is that Mark Wahlberg actually came back to SNL and did a scene with Andy Samberg where he addressed him and kind of called him out for doing this. And while doing that, again, mocked himself, because Mark Wahlberg, I think, has a very good sense of humor about who he is and about kind of leaning into that. Again, just like De Niro, just like Walken, where they have kind of, in their older careers, become very, have kind of leaned into doing the parody of themselves. Goldblum, another guy that we did that has kind of done that, where they kind of lean into the persona that they've become. Mark Wahlberg can also do that. So let's take a look at when he confronted Andy Samberg backstage at SNL, and you can hear him do an impression of Andy Samberg's Mark Wahlberg impression. Fascinating. Let's check it out.
So, Andy, where were we?
You were saying my impression was way off?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't get it. It was very inaccurate, you know?
Again, yep.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Josh
going on?
Brolin, how you doing?
I'm good.
You were in the Goonies movie, right? I produce Entourage.
Yeah,
Say hi
I
to
know.
your mother for me, okay?
Okay.
So he's basically doing what Samberg did, just kind of limiting himself, but he's doing it from his own personal thing, right? Hey, you're Josh Brolin, right? You in the Goonies. I produce Entourage, right? He's not quite going as big, but he's still doing that same delivery. And as you can hear, it's almost dead on. It's that short little delivery. You go up, you go down, right? Maybe you start over here, but when you're done with the scene, I produce Entourage, right? We go up a little bit, we go down a little bit. So make sure you're playing with those levels, because that's where the impression really lives. The voice isn't that hard to do, right? It's just kind of, I'm a dude's voice, and then I throw in the Boston, I throw in a little breath, and then I do that, right? But if I'm just here, sure, this is Mark Wahlberg, but the real magic comes when you're going up, you're going down. What am I doing? Which direction? I don't know. It's crazy, right? Play with that. Have fun with that. And again, with all the impressions that we do on here, go and find other movies. Go and find your favorite Mark Wahlberg movie and just listen to your favorite lines from that movie and mimic those, right? Whatever you can do, just take the tools that you've learned here today and go and apply it to the movies and the moments that you already love. Thanks so much for watching another episode of First Impressions. Once again, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We've got so much more coming your way. In fact, in our next episode, I'm going to teach you one of the coolest impressions around. So, all right. See you next time.